Okay, good morning everyone. You know how this is going to go. We're going to break down this video. Charles has already broken down his video editing style when talking about the video that won him $500, which is crazy and is just another reason to make sure that you are keeping up and aware of the events that are going on in this community. But we're going to be breaking down this video. This video was created by BartVFX. He is a fantastic video editor. He's primarily over on Instagram, which is a tool that a lot of video editors are kind of sleeping on, if I'm honest, including myself. So, you know, what am I saying? He primarily talks about, video editing, obviously. He talks a lot about client acquisition. He talks a lot about general professionalism. He's less on the tutorials, more on the theory of business side of it. Very interesting stuff. I agree a lot with what he says. That being said, let's kind of watch this video in full. And then we will break it down almost beat by beat. So let's jump into that.
I really like this idea by Alex Hormozi that we can control the input, but output is beyond our reach. And if you think about it, you have absolutely no control over the algorithm. You can only control the input, which is the amount of pieces of content you're putting out. And by maximizing the volume, you're increasing your chances of going viral, which will eventually bring more customers and potential clients. And it doesn't only apply to content, it applies to literally everything. For example, if you're a video editor and you keep maximizing your outreach to potential clients and not expecting every single person to respond to you, then you're stacking the odds in your favor and you're more likely to get clients. Focus on the input, screw the output.
Amazingly edited. I already said that, but this is incredibly done, not only from a technical standpoint, although it's very simple but just elegantly done, but from a theory point of view, this has every hallmark of a greatly or a fantastically crafted video that is going to hold the retention of the audience, as it does, very well. But let's break it down. There's kind of arguably four distinct portions of this video. We have the videos of Bart talking to the camera. He's got the text kind of in the center of the shot. Very simple. I'm sure we've all done very similar things. We've got a very similar type of shot where we kind of have that stock footage. Obviously, the text is still there. Again, very similar. We've all kind of done something like that. And then in this particular video, we have two instances of a 3D kind of dynamic scene that I really want to focus on, although we will look at everything else. We have this one here, which is kind of like almost these cards, where we transition from one and then we zoom out and we kind of get that whole kind of cards falling effect. And then we have one, I believe back here, where we have almost a hallway of images that we kind of zoom out through and then transition into a similar shot and then zoom in to the text. Super interesting, super dynamic. How do we do them? Well, before we look at those scenes, let's start at the very beginning, because retention and attention and capturing an audience and holding and getting views, that's primarily what you need to be great at. You can be good at video editing, you can be great at video editing, but if you're not good at capturing attention, that doesn't really mean anything anymore. You need to know how to do that. So let's look at that. In this specific instance, we can see a very well executed example of how text is going to increase retention. People, whether you like it or not, are going to read without being able to help it. I'm sure a lot of us have seen a message about a show that we are halfway through watching, or maybe we've Googled something, like, oh, I really like this character, and I look them up, and at the end of the Google result, it says, this character, death. And then now we know that they're dead and the show's spoiled. This is a very common example of how we can't control what we read. And so we can apply that same base idea in our videos. By having text that is constantly changing, the viewer can't control that they're reading it. And so they're going to be taking in that knowledge, which is one thing, but they're also just going to stay to watch. They're going to have something that they're doing, and it's going to take the edge off the need to scroll. That little bit of dopamine that we get with every scroll, having that text there is going to replace it. So when we see here, we have each piece of text pop up and then hard cut to the next piece of text, obviously in line with what he's saying, we have that sort of effect. Obviously then, once we've done that, we've kind of successfully hooked them. We want to show them that this video is quality, and that's why we have this kind of advanced animation here. Now, I say advanced, but this animation is not hard to do. We're going to be using a plugin called Animation Composer. Fantastic tool. Speeds up your workflow quite a lot. And yeah, we'll be able to do something like this very, very easy with very little setup. So we have these kind of text pop up, and then we have a very similar text, kind of fade in effect. Which is very simple. Then we cut to something a bit more interesting. We have this 3D scene, which I'll just kind of play out just so that you guys can kind of picture it. It's super simple, but it is so well done, and I think a lot of the quality that's coming from this piece is the speed ramps. Our graphs are tools that we use when we are in the keyframe graph. It is super well done the way this video uses them. I believe that they're using a lot of exponential in and out graphs. Those are my personal favorites, but they do place a lot of emphasis on speed and a lot of emphasis on fading out that speed. So, how would this actually be done? To those of you who may not be very familiar with 3D, this is going to be confusing, but trust me, it's not that hard. Now, this is a concept that we're going to talk on in a later video called, I think, Thinking in 3D, something along those lines. But the way we need to approach 3D, especially in this instance, is that we're not really going to be moving our layers anymore. Instead, we're going to be moving our camera. Now, this sounds obvious, but the way we need to start thinking is we need to set up our scenes in different locations and, have our camera move between them. That's what I believe is going on in this scene. We have our initial card here with the text behind it, and I believe that we have our camera pointing here, and then it is going to rotate over to our second one, and then pulls backwards so that we can see more. And that's kind of it. Really, there isn't a whole lot to it. It's just very clever positioning and excellent camera motion. Make sure that you're familiar with your keyframe graphs. If not, go back to the advanced After Effects lesson. There's a whole lesson on just the keyframe graphs. Again, it's super helpful to know that sort of thing. It's going to clean up your videos immensely. Moving on to the next part, we can kind of see something I actually also want to talk about. The fact that in almost all of his videos, not just this one, Bart is pretty consistently wearing black clothing, and I believe this is done so that the text stands out, again allowing it to be more legible, allowing our viewers to get, kind of drawn to the most important part of our scene, which is going to be the text, because that is going to hold their attention the easiest. And it's going to kind of keep everyone engaged. Another note, this is really good footage. Not all of us have the privilege of working with fantastic cameras. Not all of us have the ability to work with clients who care for lighting, who care for cinematography. But if you do, and if you can convince them, you can create videos that are so much higher quality. But in this case, you might not have the ability to do that. So always remember that you want your text to stand out, but still fit in. Now that doesn't make any sense, but what we have here is we have white text on a black background, with his jumper, but this text is also matching with this Nike logo here, so it's not a color that is unfamiliar to the scene. The viewer isn't going to kind of be shocked by seeing that color in the overall color palette. It's not the only place it is used, and most importantly, it's legible. Always remember that. That's kind of the goal when you're using text. Very similar effect here, where we have this footage that I do believe he shot himself. Very dark scene, and the text is on the darkest portion. And I actually think he moved the text down so that it could contrast with the darkest part of the scene. Again, more readable. That's really the point with text. You want your text to be readable. And that's something I see a lot of people not doing. Make sure that your text is readable. Very, very important. And again, we're not seeing any fancy transitions, just hard cuts to the next piece of text as he is talking. Now, we have here a very flashy screen burn transition. This isn't anything hard. If you are comfortable using the masking tool, all you need to do is essentially break this scene, or this, if I can get it. Oh, this is going to be a pain. All right, hang on, I can get it. You'd almost want to break these up into the different sections. Draw a mask around this circle, draw a mask around this circle, draw a mask around this circle, and then add a mask path so that you can almost wrap it around the shape, and do the same for all the components, and add a glow on it to finish it up. It's pretty simple, but it looks fantastic, and that sort of thing is what this whole style is built on. Moving on now to the final 3D scene, we have this hallway, and that's what I'm going to refer to it as. I know you could call it a trophy room, something like that, but for all practical purposes, this is a hallway with walls made up of these images, and then the camera is just pulling back through them. That's all it is. I would say that there's no 3D lighting or anything, but this motion is very, very smooth. We've got that rotation, and then it kind of falls in and transitions to a very similar scene. Instead of photos this time, it is going to be those arrows. And in this one, there is obviously some 3D lighting. We can see that because of these shadows. They're coming from different positions on each of the arrows. The light's obviously going to be around here so that, the shadows still make sense. But yeah, just again, fantastically done. Very simple. Camera is just going to push through. And then we kind of have this, I actually don't know if there was a cut there or if that's natural. No, okay, that's natural. Okay. We have this very quick fade, push in, and then we have what I think is a, not unnatural, but a effect, we have a created effect rather than a natural blur effect. This isn't something that the camera in After Effects is doing on its own. I reckon that Bart has grabbed a camera blur effect or a Gaussian blur effect and has placed it over to make that motion just a bit smoother, to emphasize that kind of whoosh and then moving in really quickly so that the text can kind of come in very quickly. Also, the text is in the dead center, which doesn't really mean that much, but when we then transition into this scene, again, just a hard cut, our eyes are already looking at the text. Fantastic technique. It's going to be great for retention. And in terms of 3D, that's really everything. It just kind of continues on with those hard cuts because a lot of the work has been done. We've done the 3D. We've kind of convinced our viewer to stay all the way to the end. 30 seconds isn't that long, so if you can get them to stay for 15 seconds, or how long was it? That's not helpful. Okay, so it's about a 30-second video, and if you can get them to stay for 15 seconds, the likelihood that they're going to skip the last 15 seconds, especially when you haven't given them that relief, that dopamine hit with the end of the video, they're just going to hang around because it's another 20 seconds. In terms of how long we spend scrolling, it's not that long. So again, what we really need to be looking at with this style of content, quality and cleanliness in using simple techniques, which is something that comes after years and lots of experience in your given niche. But we'll be going over techniques that you can use to start working on that. So anyway, I don't want to drag this out. We're going to be jumping right into this. I think I'm taking the next few lessons, or maybe Charles is. Either way, you'll see me very shortly. All right, wish you guys the best.